This podcast is brought to you by Collector Legion. For all your single and gaming needs, there is no substitute. And if you're lucky enough to find yourself in LA with time to play, check them out for the best in-person gaming experience this side of the Pro Tour. Welcome to Split Second Sorcerers. I'm your host with the most counter spells, Isaac Sears. And today on the pod, we have the quarterfinalist at Pro Tour Phyrexia. He won a match of Modern on turn 1 with just a lightning bolt, and is lifetime undefeated against Johnny Magic and Louis Scott Vargas. It's
the one, the only
Earlder 1, or as many otherwise know him, Chris Ferber.
Quite the intro. I don't know if I've ever been hyped up that much. Thanks for having me.
All right, well, let's see if we can bring you down to earth a little bit. And how about you tell us what's your biggest or most embarrassing punt?
So one that comes to mind, I was playing in a SCG Open Legacy back in the day against Sam Pardee, actually, and this is like round 3 or 4. And I was playing Merfolk, as you do when you first get Force of Wills and you have no other money to spend, so you just play, Merfolk. I was playing Merfolk, he was playing Delver, and he cast a spell. I responded, well, no, sorry, let me start over. I cast a spell. He responded by tapping mana with his island, paying one blue floating, and then dazing, because I didn't have any other mana untapped, right? So he has the one blue floating, he's like, okay, tap for blue, daze. And then I'm like thinking in my hand, I'm like, I have a force, I have a daze, I have thinking what to do. And I'm looking and, he doesn't have any lands in play. I'm like, I'll just daze. So, of course, I pick up my island and say, okay, I'll daze. And he's like, okay, I'll pay with the one blue floating. And I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. So that was
object permanence, you bastard.
I know. This was before you had to track mana in a way you could see, a visual way. And so he said it and it was there, but I just forgot about it.
Well, on the more happier end of things, what's your favorite tourney venue with which to play Magic at?
Ooh, I really like the Convention Center in San Diego.
Same.
Yeah, first of all, it's close, so I could drive there. But second of all, it's gorgeous. Like if you go out on the balconies, you can overlook the ocean, the bay. Obviously, the weather's always great. It's right next to downtown. Lots of good food and eating options around. So that's probably
also,
my number one.
Rare natural lighting in a in a tournament hall too.
Yeah, I mean I've been to cities like Cleveland and Detroit, and it's just like the basement of a tall building, and it's so depressing.
Shade.
Yeah, exactly. But San Diego is where it's at, I think.
What's the most difficult match of Magic you've ever won?
Ever? Ever's tough, but
one that recently, whichever comes to mind.
Yeah. Recently, at the Pro Tour Phyrexia All B1. This is round 8 of day 1. So I'm X-1 playing to stay X-1 and be, going into like the feature pod on day 2 kind of thing. I'm playing Lotus Field against mono white humans, and my opponent has like a pretty good start. This is game 3. He goes like 1 drop into Thalia into Adeline, and that's a tough draw for Lotus Field to beat conventionally. And so I had to make a couple desperate plays. One of them was I had to chump the Adeline with my Grazer, but like get a little bit of ramp, and then on turn I had to tap out for Lear, like the I don't remember Lear's title, but something of the Drowned. But and if he has a Brutal Cathar way to remove it, I lose on the spot. But if he doesn't, he can attack with just Adeline, and I could survive one more turn, right? And so that's what happens. He doesn't have the removal spell. I go to low life total. I leave my Lear in play. And then the way I win is I have to string together like hidden strings, and there's a Thalia in play still. So these are all like very low value. And I have 1 Lotus Field. So instead of having both and it's easy, I've just got 1. And so it's like hidden strings, untap my land, tap your blocker. Hidden strings again, untap my land, tap your blocker. Play like an impulse pre-combat so I can use my mana. And of course I've have the Lear in play. So then flash back the hidden strings off Lear, untap, Cypher onto the Lear, do that twice, so my Lear is in play with, he has no blockers and 2 hidden strings under it, and I'm barely like keeping pace on mana. I'm like making 1 mana with each of these hidden strings, right? And I found Path to Peril with my impulse, so cast Path to Peril, attack, untap, and then I had enough action to kind of like play a Thespian stage, copy my field, and kind of go off from there. But it was like the most strung together out of nothing win that I can think of in recent memory.
Using the whole kitchen sink. Now,
Yeah.
speaking of winning games in under auspicious circumstances, would you rather win at one life on turn 5 of turns?
Turn 5 of turns, probably. I don't know. That feels a little bit more of a nail biter to me. Like, you go to one life all the time. I played Death Shadow a good amount in Modern, so I don't fear one life.
What's the first card you remember opening out of a booster pack?
Ooh, that's hard to say. But I know when I was a kid and I first started playing, I really liked Avatar of Might from, I think, Odyssey, whenever it was. But I don't know if I ever opened one, but that card was just like awesome to me. It's like, oh, if they have the requisite number of creatures in play, it just costs 2, and it's like a giant 8/8 trample. And I thought that was like the coolest card I'd ever seen.
What's the most game-changing Magic lesson you've learned over the years?
I think that kind of rolling with the punches. If you play a lot of any game where there's a significant amount of variance, like card games, poker, Magic, I feel like you have to have a pretty good attitude, a pretty good approach, because you're going to get unlucky sometimes. But you have to remember that you do get lucky sometimes, and you can't win them all, and you just have to kind of do the best you can every time. And really don't like get yourself down if it doesn't go your way, because it can't always go your way. There's like a good amount of luck, even though there's a lot of skill and preparation too.
So, God forbid, if Magic stopped existing, what would you do to fill the void?
Thankfully, I've been blessed with a lot of hobbies. So I mean, I pick up hobbies all the time, and I go through phases. So, during the pandemic, especially when there weren't that many high-level Magic events, I probably went months without playing Magic, and I was okay. I was doing things like playing chess online or playing pickleball, or my wife and I like to do escape rooms all the time. So I have a lot of interest, so I think I would be okay. Although, of course, Magic, I say, is my biggest and kind of the passion, I would say, if I had to pick one.
What's your favorite constructed format? Year, sets, which would have you?
I don't know the year. I really like old school Modern. So I played like Jeskai Twin or Grixis Twin, like these twin variants back in the day. And this is against like Jund and Birthing Pod and Tron, and I don't know, that really old school feel. I really liked. That was my introduction to like Modern, and when I was building up a collection and like traveling for events, and so that that era kind of appeals to me.
Nothing like winning on turn 4.
Yeah.
Now, if you could change one thing about Magic, whether it be bannings, unbanning, structure, what would it be?
I don't really have that strong of feelings about bannings or unbannings. I think that maybe this is a very spiky kind of mentality, but I'm like, all right, just tell me the rules of engagement and I'll do the best I can. It's if we're all on the same playing field, it doesn't really matter to me what cards are legal, what cards are banned, that kind of thing. I think that one thing that could maybe get better about Magic itself is coverage. I think it's better now, a little bit better now that the Pro Tour is back, but there were some historic, like, pretty terrible coverage from Wizards of the Coast for, like, high-level events. And, like, if you go back and try to look at things, like, I try to go back and see, where can I find information about some of my GP top 8s? And there's just nothing there. It's all gone. Yeah. So I wish they were a little better about that. Like, it's obviously in existence. Why can't we continue to see it?
What's your favorite non-Magic the Gathering story on a Magic the Gathering trip?
So me and 3 of my buddies were going up to, I think, like San Jose. I don't know if it was for a GP or a Star City thing. I don't know, something. But it was me, my buddy Sean, and then my buddy Josh and Nick. Nick had just had surgery on his leg, so he's like in a boot hobbling around. But he's there. He's ambulatory. Sean was insistent that on the way up, we have to get gas at a Shell gas station because he had a gift card. He had like $100 Shell gas gift card. He's like, I'll pay for gas, and then you guys just pay me for your portion.
Yeah.
And that was his plan for paying for the weekend. So he was like, we have to do it this way, right? And so we're driving along in the middle of I live in Los Angeles, so we're driving north in the middle of the valley, and keep passing these gas stations, but they're not Shell. And my gas gauge is getting lower and lower and lower until eventually I'm like it's on 0, my gas gauge, but there's a Shell on the exit. So we pull out, get off, go to the light. Literally, we're in the traffic light to turn left into the Shell, and my car dies. my car just runs out of gas.
Timing.
I know. And so we have to get out of the car and push the car the rest of the way. Thankfully, it's just one left turn. Yeah, one left turn into the gas station. But so I'm in the driver's seat, like steering, and they're behind it pushing, and then Nick, who has the boot on, is like trying to like hobble and like push the car too, and it's like the closest call or one of the closest calls I've ever had. But yeah, that comes to mind.
What's the worst card you've ever registered in a constructed tournament?
Probably Army of the Damned, which is if anyone remembers, it's like 5 black,
Five, black.
Yeah, put 13 2/2 tap zombies into play, and it has flashback too for
How
for
are
10.
they gonna win?
Yeah, so I think this is the first GP I ever played. It was like GP San Diego back at least 10 years ago, and it was Innistrad block constructed. That was the format, and so
Oh yeah.
yeah, people were playing things like Geist of St. Traft and Strangleroot Geist and Delver of Secrets.
Bonfire of the Damned.
Bonfire of the Damned, and I'm like, I'm gonna build a control deck that wins with Army of the Damned. And
This will go well.
this will go well. This is my first GP ever, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do it. And after 4 rounds, my record, I had a 1 bye because this is back in the day. If you had enough Planeswalker points, you got buys.
Yeah.
So I had 1 bye, but then at round 5, my record was 1-3-1. and I picked up a draw. I was really upset about the draw too because I was like, oh, I played against a humans opponent and I had double Curse of Death's holdout, but I couldn't win the game. I couldn't close the game, and this is like game 3. And he didn't scoop to me, and I'm like, come on, how can you win? I was like, my control deck is so good. But yeah, I didn't win a match with that deck.
Do you have a player that you remember first idolizing? Was there, a kind of first Magic celebrity or, Magic beacon of intrigue?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of people, it's probably Luis Scott Vargas. I started playing about 2010, and that's when his peak kind of results and fame, and he had a bunch of content, right? It was very easy to look up to him because you could kind of interact with him in his videos. Like, he was a personality that you felt like you knew him, even though I had never met him at the time, but he's an accomplished guy, obviously a lot to learn from, but like pretty jovial and entertaining.
Funny, yeah.
So it's gotta be
from California.
Yeah, exactly. I really like PV too. Different ways. I just like PV's mentality about the game. I think he's just like so level-headed and so strategic, and I really like when he writes an article, for instance. It's some of like the best content I've ever consumed because of the way he like approaches and thinks about things. It's really interesting to me. But I would say LSV probably number 1.
Was it? Okay. So my producer is telling us that is time in the podcast, and we have time for just one more question. So to end the podcast, I gotta know, Chris, PB&J or grilled cheese?
I like both, but I eat grilled cheese a lot more, so I would say grilled cheese.
Follow-up question, does meat belong in a grilled cheese, or is it just cheese and bread and sauce?
I don't eat red meat, so I don't eat beef or pork. So I'm not trying to put fish in this grilled cheese or poultry. So to me, I'm fine with just the cheese and the bread.
Fish and a grilled cheese.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
I know that people put bacon in it, and that sounds good too. But I wouldn't do that. So.
Well, as we come to a close here, my friend, where can the good people find you or your content?
I have no content, but I'm playing in the upcoming Worlds event, so hopefully I'll be on camera at least somewhat if I'm doing well enough. So
on camera,
look for me there.
In the top 8.
That'd
maybe
be nice.
Making a card with his face on it.
That
Who
would be nice. Yeah.
All right. Thanks everybody, and thank you, Chris.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.